Hi everybody, Sunshine here. So real quick, I wanted to talk about scoring. I know it's something that actually as hand builders and even makers and like off pottery wheel, we struggle with scoring and attachments. Sometimes they can be a really difficult thing to master. And often when I'm teaching, I notice I'm always telling people, you're not scoring enough. And what I want to say about that is that this is not a great scoring tool, right? This is a needle tool, has very great function for lots of things. Scoring isn't one of them because it's going to take you forever. What I like to use is this little guy. It's just like a Chinese clay art tool. I have a couple other ones. This is another style that I'll use. And this is just made with T-pins and like epoxy. But really it's multiple little tines here, and I just want to be able to score and rough up the surface, okay? And I'm really quickly just going to attach to this lid. But I'm going to score and keep that kind of directional. So I'll score one way and then I'll score the other way because I really want this to be roughed up, right? The whole point of scoring, and this is just one of those funny things, the whole point, I'm going to set those down, which is like, ugh. Anyways, the whole point of scoring is for things to overlock and then join, right? So if you're just rubbing and this rubbing and then like butted up against is not what you want. You want sort of that interlocking. So think about that when you're scoring. So a lot of times when I'm scoring, I'll do it directionally. So if I'm scoring this way on one side, on this side, I'll score the same way so that there's more chance for things to interlock, right? But it basically, I just want to spend the time. I spend so much time on making this object, and there's so many steps. And really, with ceramics, I think you learn really quick. There's so many steps to a thing that there's all these different ways to destroy your object or make it not work. And you don't want to come to the end of the road and pull a thing out of the firing and see a crack along a scored line. It's just the most disappointing thing that could be avoided through some really good scoring, okay? So I'm going to really quickly set this down again. So just really quick, I'm going to show you. So this is scored, okay? And what I'm going to do now is, use a paintbrush with some water. And I just like these really cheapy paintbrushes from the hardware store, especially for this, because I leave them soaking in a cup full of water and clay. I basically just use water. I'll throw my remnant clay in there, so it is kind of clay water, but it's not slip. But I will just make sure that I get this nice and wet. And for this guy, because this is harder, this is more set up, I'm kind of giving it a real kind of bath. I really want it to be sticky like glue when I attach this other top. So now that I've sort of wet it down, I've flattened out a lot of those score marks, okay? What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back over it with my score tool and just reopen up all that scoring. So there you go, you can see, okay? So if your scoring doesn't look like this, aim for this. I don't really ever have things come apart. It's something that if you can just follow that sort of guide of like, let's get it together and work on it. Now this guy, this is gonna sit on top like this, and I'm just gonna gently press that on there because I wanna sort of see where my scoring needs to be for this. A lot of times I just guesstimate, but and I just sort of overscore. But I'm gonna sort of dig in, and then I'm gonna directionally change directions just to open up sort of that clay. And again, I really kind of want to get this opened up. So yeah, whenever you have things, like part of this too is about like your different clays are going to react differently. Other people swear by slips or different kinds of things. I'm sort of an advocate of whatever works for you, and if you can develop kind of a rhythm and a pattern to it, then stick with it. I mostly just use water and some aggressive scoring. So I'm going to show you how this looks. Right. And even on this guy, I was like, it's not as messed up right there. So I really am just going to get after it because I want this bad boy to stick together. So now I'm just going to set this on top. I'm going to kind of press it down on my seam very gently, because I just really want to make sure that that is all kind of on there. I want to trap air inside of this guy, just because when I'm attaching and pulling, like messing around with it, that trapped air in there kind of acts like a bit of a mold, like it pushes back a bit. And so it's really helpful, especially for things that are lidded or have curves. And I'm working with relatively soft clay, kind of leather hard, soft leather hard. So just paddle this on. And then a lot of times what I do to make sure my scoring is actually on there, I'll kind of lift it by the lid. It's very scary when it falls off. But most of the time, if you've scored really well, it's not going to come off. And the goal is for it not to come off, right? That I also, if you guys noticed really quick, that I only scored one side, or I only slipped one side. So I only used water on one side. And what happens with that, and why you do that, I don't know if you've ever done this where you score and slip, and then you put water on both sides, and then it just rubs around, right? It kind of acts more as a resist. What you want is one side to be a little bit more dry, so there's a wicking action that occurs. It pulls that clay into that wet clay, okay? So this one I'm just going to finish up, but just a real quick video on how to score. Okay, thanks guys, bye.